Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Oliver, and I was one of the editors on Doug's book. For those of you that don't know me, though, I am a developmental story editor. I have a column in the Spy newspaper group on the Eastern Shore, which is now a regular show on the NPR station WHCP every Wednesday. And so that's pretty much why I am writer and editor and creative writing instructor. So I was honored to be asked to have this conversation today with Doug, and I want to just jump right in with some questions. And like he said, if you want to follow up, just raise your hand or call out. It's fine. We're very informal here. So most people, we're figuring, have not read Code Word Precipice, as of tonight anyway. So could you set the stage a little bit for us, just sort of maybe give us some teasers or some hints about what readers could expect?
Sure. So there are a couple of new characters in here that were introduced in the series, just sort of gave them a tryout in the last book. One of them is a strike fighter pilot, FA-18 pilot, named Casey Jenkins, call sign Pecos, and the other is a warship skipper named Mort Greenhouse. And they seemed to do pretty well in the last book, so I decided to give them a bigger role in this one. So Casey is a Navy lieutenant commander. She's the ops officer of a strike fighter squadron, and she's a damn good one. She's got 3 kills in Mideast combat and the Silver Star, which is the 3rd highest military award. So she's doing very well in the cockpit. She's having some trouble, though, with the other parts of her life. She has twin daughters who are in middle school, and they sort of think their mom is missing in action despite her attempts to remain close to them. In addition, she's got a secret that she's afraid will really tarnish her reputation as a fighter pilot if it gets out, and she's worrying about that, too. Meanwhile, out in the Indian Ocean, Captain Mort Greenhouse, who's the skipper of a cruiser, is on a mission so secret that he hasn't been told what his true objective is. And he's beginning to think that he's being set up for failure by his boss. About 4 command levels above them, another new character, Admiral Popeye Finnegan, who's the Pacific Fleet commander, is trying really hard to get his fleet, to all of his commands, his ships, his squadrons, to shake off their peacetime thinking, because it looks like there's war coming over Taiwan. And he develops a plan which he hopes will head off that war. It's called Operation Precipice, but it might also trigger it. So that's what's coming in the book.
Thank you. So this is the most recent book in a series. So because I don't know how many of you have read the other books in the series, I wondered if you could just tell us, is there an overall theme for the books? Are you following the exact same characters? Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. I didn't set out to write a series. I set out to find out if I could write a novel and if I would enjoy doing it. And when it turned out that both of those things were true, I just sort of kept on going. All the novels are pretty closely tied to current events at the time I was writing them. The first 2 are centered around nuclear proliferation, and particularly around North Korean nuclear weapons and on the tension between North and South Korea. And the main characters in those 2 books are the President of the United States, who's a guy named Rick Martin, a name that I picked with absolutely no awareness of the entertainer named Ricky Martin.
But his editor told him.
A reader in New York City told me that, said, Did you know who Ricky Martin is? I said, oh, gee. So that's one of several naming mistakes that I've made over the course of the book. The other guy is a retired Marine general turned congressman named Ray Morales, and the 2 of them have been the main characters in the first 2 books. But they're getting a little old in the tooth, so in the second 2 books, Precipice, Code Word Precipice, and Code Word Precipice, Precipice is about the Middle East, because that's what was really particularly hot at the time I wrote that, and Code Word Precipice, Code Word Precipice, about China and Taiwan, and also about the Baltic states and Russia. In this book, I've sort of retired Morales and Martin at the end of this book, and I'm trying to have the two new folks, Casey Jenkins and Mort Greenhouse, carry the series going forward. I've tried to write this in a way that you can start the series at any place and you won't get completely lost. I would say, though, that there's a fairly clear division between the plots and the characters of the first two books and the second two books. So if you're just gonna read one of the first three, I would start with Precipice, because that leads into Precipice very strongly.
Okay, well, you just answered one of the questions I was going to ask, so that's great.